Hello. Today we are discussing 1.5, rewriting equations and formulas. So our objective is to rewrite literal equations, and then we're going to rewrite and use formulas for area and rewrite and use other common formulas. Okay. So first we need to talk about this very first word. What is a literal equation? A literal equation is an equation that has two or more variables. Okay. So in our previous sections, we've only dealt with one variable, an x, a y, an a, a b. Okay, but if we have an equation with two or more in there, that's what we call a literal equation. And we can rewrite them in a lot of different ways, but many times it's useful to rewrite them solved for one variable. So to take one of the variables and solve for it, meaning get it completely isolated on one side all by itself by using our inverse operations. So we're going to start by looking at an example of a literal equation. So here's our literal equation. We've got 3y plus 4x equals 9. So it's got two variables. It's got the y and it's got the x. So we can solve this for either the y or the x. In this case, we want to solve it. It says to solve it for y. We highlight so, meaning what it means here by solving for y is I want to do some work and I want to get it so y equals a bunch of stuff over here with no y over on that side. So we want just one y on one side and everything else to be on the other side. So to do that, I'm going to have to use my inverse operations and identify where's my variable I'm trying to solve for. So we look in this equation and we look to find, well, where is my y? Well, we've got a y right there. Okay, so step one, get that y term by itself. Well, the y term is this whole thing. So that 3y. Okay, terms are separated by addition. So terms are separated by addition. So I want to get that y term by itself. So to get that y term by itself, I'm going to have to take this positive 4x and subtract it from both sides. So I'd write 3y plus 4x, and now we want to subtract 4x from both sides. 9 subtract 4x. So now over here, these two add to 0, and I'm just left with a 3y equals 9 minus 4x. Okay. So now I've got the y term all by itself. This y term is over here by itself, but right now it's multiplied by 3 because that's a multiply. If there's nothing written in between this 3 and this y, it's a multiply. So to undo a multiplication, I need to divide both sides. So we're going to divide, and we're going to use the fraction bar to divide from here on. So we're going to divide both sides by that 3. Okay. So this 3 divided by 3 gives me a 1, so I'm left with 1y. Equals, now on this side, I'm going to just leave that as is, 9 minus 4x, and put that all over 3. So what this means, again, this all over 3 part means both this guy and this guy are divided by that 3. But for simplicity, we write it as just one big long division bar divided by 3. So we solve that for 3. Okay. All right, so now next. Okay, we're going to solve this literal equation, example 2. Okay, so to solve this one, we want to solve the literal equation y equals 3x plus 5xz, but we want to solve this for x. Right now it's already solved for y, but we want to solve it for x. So step one, find where my x's are. Well, I've got one here, but I also have one here. So I've actually got two x's. My goal is to get them all together on one side. But both my terms have an x in this case. Okay, both my terms. Here's a term, they both have an x. So how do I deal with something like that? So our trick is to use the distributive property backwards. Distribute backwards. Okay, what I mean by that. Okay, so we're just going to do a little trick on the distributive property. Okay, so if I was to what the distributive property looks like, if I have 2 times x plus 4, I can take this 2 and multiply it by the x and take the 2 and multiply by the 4 and end up with 2x plus 8. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go backwards. We're going to start with something like this, right here, and go back to something like that. Okay. So for example, if I had an x times 2 plus y, I can take the 2 times the x and the x times the 2. I'd have 2x plus x times y. We'd write as x times y like that, or xy. So we are going to go backwards and go back to there, okay? Because if we notice here, these both have an x. So I'm going to write it as one single x, and then what did I distribute in? So to get, I'd have to take x times what to get to this term right here? I'd have to take x times 3 plus this x, when I distribute in, times what is going to get me this right here? Well, a 5 and a z. So now I always double check at this point. If I was distribute back in, take the 3 times the x, yep, I get the 3x. I'd get back up here to where we started. And take the x times the 5z, yep, I'd get back up here to 5xz. Okay, so that's using the distributive property backwards. But what that did is that turned 2 x's. We still have y equals. It turned the 2 x's, an x here and an x here, now into just one single x in front. So now I have x times something. We're going to treat this like one big something. Up here, when we had 3 times y right here, we had a 3, that was a 3, times my y up here. We were able to divide both sides by the 3. Here we have an x times this thing. So we're going to divide both sides by that thing multiplied by the x. Well, the thing multiplied by the x is the 3 plus 5z. Oh. Okay, so now when I take this whole thing and divide it by this whole thing, that'll give me 1. So on that side, I'm just left with an x, and over here, a y divided by 3 plus 5z. So now did I get, normally we'd write that the other way. So again, our end goal of solving is to get it so the y's on one side, no y here, solve for x. We want an x on one side, no x over here, and I was able to do that. So there I am, solve for x. Okay. Okay, so what is a formula? Okay, a formula shows how one variable is related to one or more other variables. You know a lot of different formulas. You have had a bunch of them. You've had formulas for area. Area equals length times width. Area equals 1/2 base times height. Area equals pi r squared. Okay. You've also had formulas for circumference. Circumference equals 2 pi r. Distance equals rate times time. Okay, all of those are formulas that relate area, length, width, base, height, rate, and time. There's formulas for all kinds of things. So we're going to be dealing with some formulas and solving them for other bits of information. Okay, so in this next example, the formula for the surface area, first of all, what the heck is surface area? Surface area is really just the area of all the surfaces. Area of all the surfaces added together. So it's just the area of all the surfaces. So if I was going to paint this, so here would be like the area of this side plus the area of this side plus the area of the top. All those flat surfaces would be the area of all of those. Okay. So the formula for the surface area of a rectangular prism is, there's a formula for that. It's given right here. Surface area S is equal to 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the length times the height plus 2 times the width times the height. We want to solve it for L. Oops, sorry. Okay, we want to solve this for L, length, and I always use cursive L. Okay, so then my goal here is to find, first of all, I need to find my L's. I've got two of them. I've got an L there and an L there. This one here does not have an L, so I'm going to subtract it from the other side. So we'll have S minus 2WH equals 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH minus 2WH. So these add to 0. So S minus 2WH. Okay, so now I have everything with an L on one side. But again, both of these still have an L. So I'm going to use our trick from up here. We're going to distribute backwards since both of those have an L. I'm going to write it as one single L. And then figure out what goes here. So L times what is going to get me 2LW? Well, I'm going to need a 2 and a W plus L times what is going to give me 2LH? Well, I'm going to need a 2 and I'm going to need an H. And then on this side, we still have the S minus 2WH. So it's L times, let's multiply there. So we would divide both sides by this 2W plus 2H. So these are going to, sorry, I shouldn't just say these, we'll specify this guy and this guy will divide out to make 1. So then L is going to equal S minus 2WH divided by 2W plus 2H. Okay, you will not be asked to memorize any given formulas. Okay, so if there are formulas that you will need on the quiz, I will have either a cheat sheet or just ask me what the formula is. Okay, so that way we can just use the formula that way. Here are some common formulas. This first one is temperature. To go from degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius, it's 5/9 times Fahrenheit minus 32. Okay. Here's interest, simple interest, like on a car loan or a savings account. The interest that you pay is equal to P, which is the principal, the amount that you're investing, R, the annual interest rate, A in a decimal, times T, your time in years. And then distance equals rate times time. Okay. So first, let's just go ahead and let's do this example 5. Okay. So we want to solve the temperature formula for F. So here the temperature formula is C equals 5/9 F minus 32. Okay. So I could distribute, but I don't think I'm going to on this one. I'm just going to get rid of the 5/9 out here first. So to get rid of a fraction like that, multiplied, a fraction multiplied, I could divide by the fraction, but a little trick is instead multiply both sides by what we call the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 5/9 is 9/5, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 9/5. Because when I take 5/9 times 9/5, I get 1. So those multiply to give me 1. So on this side, I'm left with F minus 32. And then this side, I have 9/5 C. And then to undo a subtract 32, I know a lot of you do the shortcut. We're going to add 32 to both sides. So F is going to equal 9/5 C plus 32. So there I have it solved for Fahrenheit. Okay, so which has a greater surface temperature, Mercury or Venus, here in example 6? Well, if you notice, they're given in two separate units. Mercury is in Celsius, Venus is in Fahrenheit, so we need to convert one of them. Okay, well, the formula that the book gives me is Celsius. So let's go ahead and let's convert. Let's put the Fahrenheit in this to get Celsius. So let's put in the Fahrenheit. So we're going to put in Venus because, we're going to put in Venus because Venus is in Fahrenheit. So we're going to do Venus. Celsius is equal to 5/9 times 864 degrees Fahrenheit minus 32. So I need to take 864 degrees Fahrenheit, subtract 32, and multiply by 5/9. So I'm just going to 5/9 times, then 864. Oh, I don't know what happened there. 864 minus 32. We end up getting about 462 approximately. And in this case, approximately will work because we just want to know which one has the greatest surface temp. So how 462 for Venus compared to 427 for Mercury. So Venus has the greater surface temp. Okay, last example. You deposit $5,000 in an account that earns simple interest. So we're going to use our simple interest formula, which is I equals PRT. Principal, again, is the amount that you're investing. So my principal, so I'm going to go ahead and label my principal is 5,000. That's how much I'm investing. After 6 months, that's my time. But if you notice up here, it says time in years. So 6 months is half of a year, so that would be half of a year. The account earns this amount in interest. That's my interest. That's my I. We want to know what is the annual interest rate. So I'm trying to find my R. That's my question mark. So we can go ahead and plug those into my equation. My interest rate is 162.5. My principal is 5,000 times R times T, which is 1/2. So I'm going to take my 5,000 times 1/2, that's 2,500, R. So I need to divide both sides by the 2,500. These divide out to give me 1. My R equals, now we need to take, we need to take 162.5, divide it by 500, and we get 0.065, which we want that as an interest rate. Okay, slide over. Sorry, my Desmos isn't going away. There we go. So since we want this as an interest rate, interest is in a percent. And since percent means per 100, we would need to multiply this by 100, which gives me, move it back 2 places, 6.5% is my interest rate. Okay. All right, so now you can go ahead and do your practice. Please seek help if you need it, and good luck.